Hello, everybody. We are officially starting this first AJ AMA. As I was writing it down, it looked like ajama. When you do AJ AMA right next to each other, it looks like an ajama, which in Korean means kind of like old lady. So welcome to the first ajama. And so I'm going to just be painting and then talking with y'all. I can obviously answer questions too. It could be project related. It can be art related. It could be life related. And so if you feel you want to say something or just want to have a commentary, that's cool too. I've given access to people to unmute themselves. Obviously, if there's a bit of noise and, a bit of like a, just a disturbance, then I'll go back to just muting everybody and just selectively unmuting people. But since it's like a small amount of participants, I don't think I need to do that. I think we can just kind of all just chill, just be friends. You know what I mean? So with that being said, is there anyone that wants to say something? Have any comments, questions, thoughts? You have a chance to kind of start the AMA with a question. But if not, don't worry, I can still kind of talk. I could talk to myself, no problem. Going once, going twice, sold to the ajama. So I'm gonna kind of start talking about what I want to kind of do with these sessions. A little bit of it is just obviously like, one thing that the team was talking to me about is that, I have a great ability to get people motivated and inspired when it comes to like art creation, and it would be cool to kind of exploit that skill by making me do these kind of free hangouts and just making the project have a little bit more equity in alternate directions. This being one of them. There's other stuff that we're doing on the background. For instance, I think you guys understand the graphic novel is one of those things that we are working on, but there's also some other things that we're trying to do that gets us in the eyes of people that are not necessarily exclusive to the NFT space. I think a lot of folks look at the NFT space and they are kind of containing a lot of the cool stuff that you see from the NFT space, like within the NFT space. And I think we can expand beyond that and get more and more folks. And we've been working towards that like every day. We're also like trying to kind of be better about how we're planning and scheduling such things. It's been a bit of a roller coaster from the administrative side for us to kind of like sort out the stuff, because we're also trying to be like a legit business. So that comes with like, getting legit business stuff in order, and like lawyers, attorneys of the sort, business attorneys, and get those folks of all walks of life to kind of like sort out. Oh wait, what the? My child just came in here. To get all these things sorted out, so that way we can begin to. Oh wait, hold on just a second. But yeah, we're doing a lot of administrative stuff, and it's actually been kind of the bulk of what we've been doing for the last month, really, aside from some of the creative stuff that I've been doing that I don't really have any business in, like doing the administrative stuff. Like I don't know a lot about that kind of thing. I just make the art. And so we've been doing a lot of that. And on top of that, we're trying to manage the shipping of the cars and all this stuff. Like when it comes to sending out digital goods, like this image, for instance, like I can just package it up as a JPEG, let's say in this new NFT crypto world, mint it, put it out there, and you just get it. You know what I mean? But even like this tutorial, like what I would normally do with tutorials, I would sell my tutorials online, like through a website called Gumroad. And yeah, it's just like there's no real aggressive overhead. It's very simple. But what we want to kind of find a way to tie both worlds together, and this is like one of the first steps to do that. But as a consequence, it's just not as simple as just, let's just get it out to people. The tech team did a lot of good work to kind of manage and control the shipping and handling of all that stuff, like in terms of cost, logistical, aspects of like understanding where the orders are going, who's getting them, all these fun things. So they did a lot of stuff there, man. And trust me, man, it is a lot of work, especially the app that these guys are making. Man, there's like, I'm in some of these meetings and some of the conundrums are just so beyond what I can comprehend. I'm like trying to be supportive. I'm like, yeah, totally. Like androids, right? Am I right? And they're just sitting there like, you know, and I'm like, so you guys want me to like, paint something? They're like, how's that going to help make this work? And so, but these folks are really smart individuals. So I'm almost confident they're going to figure it out. But it's like, it's how it works, right? Like to make stuff, it just takes time and effort. And these guys have been putting that time and effort in. And so we're starting to kind of begin to understand the scope of this graphic novel, which I feel pretty good about. We have some internal deadlines that we think we can probably hit. And as some of those things start to become more and more clear to us in terms of what we can tell people, we will tell y'all. But I mean, it's going to be digitally distributed too. So we're not, it's that part's not going to be the hard part, The hard part is just making it. And right now I've been doing a lot of concept art, working alongside folks like Danny. He's actually works with us and helps us out. It's been great talent to the project, and I really appreciate his support. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is just actually build a strong structure. And so a lot of that just requires some fundamental groundwork. And, just on a personal level, I've been like working in my other job as an art director. So I'm an art director over at a company called Deck Nine Games. They just released the latest Life is Strange game. I'm currently working on the Expanse game as the art director, and it's been a very pleasant, project. I actually enjoyed working with this team. It's one of my favorite teams I've ever worked with in the game industry in general. And I've worked for a lot of great studios, and I've worked with a lot of great people. But in terms of just teams, generally speaking, it's one of my favorites. It has its challenges, as all game development has, but it's been a sweet ride, and we've been really moving. It's been fun. But I've been doing that, and I've been trying to like kind of get that ship in order. It's been a bit of like passing the baton when it comes to my professional life. My personal life, right? I was basically, so seeing if I can pick up a hobby, like, because I was essentially like working nonstop, doing like constant work. And my doctor basically told me either like I work too much, which is probably what leads to the second point that he made, which is that I either work too much, or the second point, I don't sleep enough. And I think I thought I don't sleep enough because I have a new baby and he like cries all the time. So I've been trying to like, okay, go to bed earlier, work a little bit less aggressively, but also like do stuff that has no pressure in this world to me. You know what I mean? Like there's no stakes if I do a bad job. And so I can kind of just have a thing that like, because I like to do stuff, I like to make things. So I like start picking up carpentry, guys. And I've been doing that. I built up a pull-up bar. It's pretty cool. My wife was like, oh, that's not too bad. I think that's actually pretty cool. And she wants to get chickens. And I was like, I can try to build the chicken coop. And she's like, nah, well, you're not that good. And I was like, all right, whatever.
AJ, we have a couple questions here.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for stopping me in mid-rant. How dare you?
No problem. You should definitely make that chicken coop, though.
Yeah, it's funny. I was designing it in Blender. Like I was trying to show her.
Oh, yeah.
We had like a huge argument because I was trying to ask her like the dimensions, and she was like, "Nah." So she clearly isn't the art director or product manager. She's just like, it's obviously supposed to be this, and I'm like, that's not obvious.
So all right, here are the questions. Jamari Peterson says, can't imagine the Expanse game, honestly. Would it take place pre or post the gate? And they're wondering if that might be a secret, so I'm not sure if you can answer that one.
I can neither confirm or deny. What I can tell you, it's with Kamina Drummer, and we officially got Kara G, voicing and doing performances. This is all like, publicly available because we did the release trailer, and she, said, yeah, we're doing it. But I can't say more than that. I can just say I'm working on the Expanse game because that's all public knowledge.
Yeah. This is looking so sick, by the way. And our next question is
Wait,
from
what?
Pan. This
Was
is
that a
looking so.
comment or was that
Yeah,
just
that was just
you?
a comment from me. I'm like, this
I was
looks
like,
awesome.
who?
But
Danny,
Panda,
hey.
yeah. Panda says, is it better to stick to one style of drawing or just draw anything?
Yeah, so if this is like an artist question, like someone who wants to improve their art skills in general, the best strategy is just to pick a thing, usually, right? Pick a style or pick a series of like styles that are pretty similar or adjacent and just hone in, you know what I mean? And it's not to say that you can never try other things. It just becomes much more challenging to get good. You know, it takes a little bit longer. But for me, like I just focused almost entirely on character concept art. You know what I mean? Like that's all I was doing for pretty much ever. And then only in the last 4 to 5 years, maybe longer, I keep losing track of time of when I started to make these life decisions. But like at some point, a few or several years ago, I just was like, why don't I try to learn how to program, or why don't I try to learn how to do 3D like genuinely, you know, not like 3D for concept, but like 3D um for asset creation. And this is something that me and Danny are actually working on, and it's something that I have now. I'm more than a junior level environment artist, if that makes sense, like a 3D modeler. I am not a senior though, because I have not done it enough to really say that I am, but I was good enough to build the assets that we use for this project and the assets that we're planning to use for our graphic novel and future endeavors. You know what I mean? But that was after, like, that choice was after I've already kind of established myself as a competent character concept artist. Does it make sense? And so I usually recommend it's good to be a jack of all trades, but be a master of one, you know? So
Yeah, definitely. Um, Josh Epiphania, I don't know how to say this name,
yeah, you
says
don't
you
you don't
might.
have to say their names either. You can keep it
Okay.
anonymous.
They said this is just a comment, but there's a question after this by someone
Okay.
else. But they said you might be the only human attempting to make a chicken coop who first designed it in Blender. So
I'm almost certain that's not true, but I definitely think that I'm among a few.
yeah, a
Maybe the
handful of
second
people.
person, yeah, but maybe not the first. Yeah,
And
it's
then the
just like the
question,
four dimensions. Sorry to interrupt. Like there's like a measuring tool in a lot of 3D softwares, and Blender has like a actually pretty awesome one. And I've used it not just for like I designed a doghouse for my dogs, but also for work. Like we build out assets and props, and I designed it and measured it, and it was Gucci. You know,
that's awesome.
so
Someone's asking if you have a brush kit they can download and use on Photoshop.
oh yeah,
They always
absolutely.
feel like they spend too much time finding the right tools.
Yeah, I have two ways of answering this. One is the most direct answer. Yeah, of course. Go to my website, robotpencil.net, and there's I forget exactly where it would be, but if you just go through all the tabs and look for I think tools or resources, click there. It takes you directly to my Dropbox link where I have all this stuff publicly available. So, and I usually keep it pretty updated. But most of the brushes that I'm using now are I think currently available. I haven't updated my brushes in a while. And then the second way of answering this question is very, very, you know, like more macro. I usually tell people worry way less about the tool, okay, and just worry about the skills. Now, is this to say that tools aren't useful, right? Like you hear a lot of artists that are pretty competent make kind of these assertions of like, everybody's always thinking about tools this, tools that, and it's like it's not about the brush, it's not about the tool, it's about your skills, and that's true. Um, but it's not to say like if you're building, let's say, a chicken coop, you know, not using a power drill or a circular saw versus like a regular handsaw and like a screwdriver, you know, like there's obviously an advantage with some power tools, you know what I mean? But if you don't know how to build a chicken coop, which I clearly do not, that's why I'm trying to design it and think it through, then you don't know how to build a chicken coop. Like I'm watching tutorials on like that, like how to do that, like making sure that there's certain parts of it that make sense, that are accurate, and that are going to be useful to these god darn chicken, you know? And it's the same with like getting better with art. Like if you are focused a lot of your time on the tools, maybe it's like an indirect way of like avoiding the obvious problem, which is you're not skilled enough, you know. Usain Bolt is one of the greatest and fastest runners out there, right? I don't think that he's worried about his shoes when it comes to racing. Like that's not what really makes him the fastest. But when it comes race day and he's racing against all the other fastest people in the world, then maybe the shoes do make a difference, but only in that circumstance when you're already at the like highest level. Does that make sense? But if you're worried about it when you still are kind of on a superficial level of skill, trust me when I say this, get good, you know, draw just using a circular brush, you know, only, and try to make something compelling and interesting just from that one simple brush until you feel you have some skills, and then try some other brushes. It doesn't mean that you can't try brushes as you're polishing the skill. Of course, you can do whatever you like, but always still kind of have like this one singular thing that you can use as a focus point. And just to be clear, I used the circle brush almost primarily in the first like 6 years of my career, you know? And I called it Old Faithful because no matter how bad my painting can get, like sometimes I'll make mistakes. I just pull out that circle brush and I could fix it, you know? And so that's what you kind of want to do. It's the same, even like, yeah, using the circular saw and saw. Like I was cutting some wood when I was making my pull-up bar, and the circular saw, this powerful machine, was getting caught in the wood because of some sort of tooth and grit in the wood that I bought. That just makes it hard for the circular saw. And it's like, I think another thing that happens is the wood pinches onto the blade that stops it too, right? So I had to use the handsaw, you know? And it was fine. And the handsaw cut through it like butter. I mean, it was hard. I had to work, you know, but it was not like super hard. It was harder actually using the circular saw in that instance. You know what I mean? And to me, that's kind of what it means to be like use it's like the same as like when your texture brushes might be betraying you. If you don't have a secondary brush or a main brush that you can just count on to save you from the challenges of what just happened to you, you know, with your painting, then it's more of a fundamental problem that you need to be worrying about rather than these kind of secondary or superficial problems. But absolutely try all sorts of cool brushes and tools. Maybe it's not the circle brush for you. Maybe it's some sort of texture brush. You know what I mean? Everybody's main brush is different. So hope that helps.
Yeah.
I can take one extra question. I have to go to a parent teacher thingy literally in like 6 minutes. So
there's one more question. I think
okay,
this
cool.
has to do it. They asked, what is the benefit to alternating drawing left and right continually? I think
Oh yeah,
they're
cool.
talking about flipping the canvas, right?
Yeah, totally. So I can demonstrate this and then I'll explain it through the demonstration. So a common problem that artists have, especially when they're beginning, but even more advanced, which I don't think that it's a problem anymore because advanced artists do what I do. They flip their canvas. They go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, you know? Is simply because when you're drawing for so long, let's say you're drawing something and you're just like, yeah, look at this. And you're just like drawing this kind of cool looking thing and you're feeling pretty good about it, you know? And you're just like, yeah, you know, everything's feeling good. And what tends to happen is when you draw for so long and you flip your canvas, you'll start to catch stuff like, whoa, this eye is a little higher than I thought it was. You know what I mean? Or let's say this is a common problem that happens without knowing that you flip. Let's say we're doing let's say we're doing like this and we're just drawing a face. I mean, it's hard for me to kind of draw. It sounds really arrogant to say this too, but it's hard for me to draw bad. Not because like I'm like this god tier artist. It's because I've trained myself with all these good habits. Does that make sense? So it's like I'm intentionally trying to draw badly, which is like harder to draw. Yeah, like it's like when you aren't skilled is easier because you don't know you're making all these mistakes. But I'm like okay, what is this mistake that I used to do? And I'm like, oh, okay. So the same problem, like proportional, like maybe it's like, oh, now the face is like larger, like this feels like it needs to come in, and the eye is still a little bit elevated. So when you're flipping, like what happens is like every time I make a detail, like so instead of drawing that second eye, like in this view, right, I'll probably draw one eye, just like you saw, and those lips too. Like I probably would work on that. So like I'll start off drawing kind of like these features first, right? And I'll be all right, cool. So I'm gonna do this, gonna do that, and I draw a lot of the features of like one side of the face because it's safe. No matter what you do, it's always gonna look fine. But as soon as like I know I'm gonna do the other side, I flip, so that way I can kind of see how this is going to look, and I flip again just to see that if it works. You see that? And I do it almost instantly, as you probably noticed. And for those of you who were not paying attention before, right? Watch the playback and you'll see that I'm doing it pretty frequently, almost every other stroke, just because it's like I want to make sure I'm never accidentally drawing poor proportions, you know? But I'm also doing a bunch of other things that you just are invisible to y'all. Like I'm looking at certain things that most of you guys are not even paying attention to. So for instance, like this ratio from the ear to base, like I'm looking at that like immediately, seeing if that lines up without actually drawing those lines. But that's what makes a face look a little bit more proportionate. You know, I'm looking at like stuff like the spacing between the eyes. I'm looking at the features that make up the chisel of the face. You know, I look at the grand scale of like the proportions of this person's head. Right? I'm drawing the ajama. You know, I'm just trying to get a good vibe check pretty frequently with all these invisible checks as well. But this is the most obvious check that everyone spots when they see someone do a painting. So yeah, if you go back and watch me do this, you see me doing this like a lot. And I'll leave you guys as last point kind of, yeah, it does kind of look like Bruce Lee. I was thinking that when I was drawing it. This is like one other piece of advice that I like to kind of just give out in terms of like whenever you're drawing and stuff like this is like you want to kind of set in place better and better habits. If you find yourself constantly correcting your painting and fixing things and adjusting your drawings, or and this is true. This is like some of you guys might not be artists, some of you guys are just part of the crypto space and you're just interested in what I have to say. This is just true with like life in general. If you find yourself doing patterns of behavior that are not effective, you should just look at them, audit them, and understand what you can do differently about them, right? So for instance, in terms of art, you know, I do have all these patterns and stuff like that. Like there was a video of me doing like I think a 2-hour demo, and then I condensed it into like, I think it was like 30 seconds or a minute. And it's just like a seizure because it's like flipping like the whole time, you know?
Oh my god.
Yeah, and so it's clear that like I definitely adopt that habit as a good thing because it saves me a lot of time when I'm constantly checking my image. I stay zoomed out so I can constantly see the full picture a lot. I actually zoomed in a little bit earlier because I realized like most of you guys are probably looking at like a microscopic picture based off of like my screen size. So you're just like, oh, I can kind of see what he's doing. But I do stay pretty far out because I can see the whole thing, you know? And in terms of life, similar things happen, right? Like I will recognize that certain things might fall off the wayside because I have a lot of things to do. So I tend to try to make lists. I try to time myself, like actually use a timer to quantify my, you know, use of time and my ability to kind of make sure that I am being more efficient and effective. And I applied it to a lot of different things all over the place. And I think with art, it really helped compound the idea of making and setting good habits. And so hope that leaves you guys with some good insight. But I got to go. Again, we'll keep doing these. Do not fear. I haven't completely disappeared. I'm just still kind of working 2 full-time jobs a bit. You know what I mean? And so cheers, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. And I'll talk to you guys later. Peace, friends.